Hello and welcome to another episode of Naturally Adventurous. I'm Charlie Hesse and I'm here with my friend Ken Behrens.
Hi folks.
Today we're going to continue on with our top mammal sightings, top lifetime mammal sightings today with Ken's. But first we're going to have a little check-in. What have you been up to this week, Ken?
Yeah, mainly just catching up with office work and emails and sorting through took about 5,000 photos on that family trip that I told folks about in a previous episode. So that's always fun. You know, the kind of the vicarious birding afterwards. Photographed a lot of frogs that I didn't identify at the time. And There's a brand new, really good Northern Madagascar Frogs book that I just got recently. Oh, wow. So it's been a pleasure to put that into action.
Cool. Is this by the same guys that did the old book? Or
no, it's a completely different team. It's a Madagascar-based NGO called Vatra, which means grassroots in Malagasy, and they write these relatively simple but really good field guides that are in both French and English.
Okay. And photos.
Yeah, it's photos, but it's updated taxonomy. The problem with the other Madagascar Herps book is it's going on 15 years old now, and so much has changed.
What, the third edition?
That one's maybe 7 years, I guess, the latest edition.
The latest, yeah, the third edition. I tell you, I had the second edition, and the difference in the size between the second and third editions was just ridiculous. It was like 3 times the size, and then even in the latest one, they had all these unknown species that hadn't been named yet.
Yep.
And I remember at the end of one Madagascar tour, I think we were sort of cross paths or co-guiding or whatever, and I had to go through the whole book and then write in all the things that had subsequently been named. So I've got this book with all these little markings of all the new names of frogs and lizards.
Yep.
It's pretty fast moving, eh? The discovery of new species in Madagascar.
And I mean, they've done DNA barcoding of Madagascar frogs, and that's revealed there's at least 150 species that are still undescribed.
Really?
Wow. There's a ton of work left to do.
If there's any people that like frogs out there, Madagascar is an absolute paradise. It's just amazing. I mean, I wouldn't say I do an amphibian checklist on my tours in most places. Maybe 1 or 2, but yeah, Madagascar, it's like quite a long reptile list and a long amphibian list.
Right. I mean, you and I have both had over 50 reptile species on a Madagascar trip. I think I've had 30 or 40 frogs on a trip. Frogs are highly variable depending on the amount of rainfall. If it's dry, you don't see that many frogs. But you get some rain, and it's just, you don't want to go to bed. You just wander around the forest all night.
Yeah, I remember one trip that I co-guided with Ken. We were asking all the clients if they wanted to go. It was a big group, we asked all the clients if anyone wanted to go out frogging, and they were like, "Oh no, we're pretty tired." So just you and me went out anyway for a long time. I can't remember that, and we were just sort of like crashing around in this little stream bed trying to find all these little frogs that were calling all around us.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
We did on my recent family trip. We did a couple night walks. And at one point, we just had the whole family wandering around in the forest. And so there's like spotlights playing here and there and voices. We're scattered over like 200 meters of trail. And then the local guides are like running off trail trying to find things. And it was just this very funny, it definitely had like a treasure hunt or like a snipe hunt type feel to it. And you just find these amazing things. So you just never know what's going to be there. It's a lot of fun. I haven't done that much night walking in like the Amazon or whatever, but I don't think you find that much stuff anywhere else in the world. No. You just see so much wildlife in Madagascar.
No, if you get like a handful of things, it's like a quiet night walk in Madagascar, but in other places in the world that would be an amazing. The amount you see is just totally different scale.
Right, if you get only 2 lemurs and 3 frogs and 2 chameleons and a cool spider or 2, that's a slow night walk in Madagascar.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking of books, I just got a new book in the mail.
Another Lynx.
Another Lynx, yeah. Mammals of China.
I guess that was based on the Handbook of Mammals of the World. Now they're turning those into regional field guides. Yeah. Great idea.
It was a very clever thing to do, and they've been doing that with all of the bird field guides, and now they're starting with mammals, and it's fantastic. This one was a lot cheaper. The bird ones, they're usually very high quality, good information, but quite expensive. But this was quite a cheap one, so I just sort of couldn't resist. And also with it covering all the mammals in China, it also covers northern Thailand as well, and I've got a bit of confusion over several squirrel species and rodents and things, so hopefully that will clear it up.
Yeah, that Southeast Asian book, it looks really nice, but I haven't found it to be all that good in terms of actually telling you like how to separate very similar squirrels or even primates. It's pretty hazy.
It's a bit lacking. In general, I would say mammal books are, they're compared to bird books, they tend to be pretty low standard, but that might be changing in the next few years.
I find that books for other groups of organisms, they don't often talk about voices much, even when they're highly relevant, like in the case of frogs. And they often don't talk about separating very similar species, which to me is also one of the most relevant things to a field guide. So I think people should.
I do remember there was a frog book for South Africa. Frogs are amphibians, and it came with a CD.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So who knows? Maybe there's a little bit of work in there for you. Go and make a CD of frogs of Madagascar.
It's actually been done. There's a pretty good one already. Yeah, there's a lot of undescribed things, unrecorded, but yeah, they did quite a thorough job. So what's going on the COVID tourism front in Thailand? Any changes?
Well, yeah, actually, in the last few days, I watched this little 5-minute English news about Thailand, and they're always talking about their government meetings and what they're discussing, because there's a lot of pressure to open up tourism, but they really don't want to do it at the risk of letting COVID back in their country. Like I've mentioned before, they've got rid of it pretty much. So one idea, which was first thought of several months ago, was a travel bubble, because there are other Asian countries that have also got COVID under control. One being China, and then there's other places like Singapore, Taiwan,
Vietnam.
Korea.
Yep.
Yeah, and these were places that were quite well linked with Thailand before. So they're now looking, because it is actually possible to come as a tourist to Thailand now, but you still have to do this 2-week quarantine.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
If you go for a 3-week holiday, you don't want to sit in a hotel for 2 weeks. So and it's also quite expensive. So they're now talking about quarantine-free travel bubbles as early as February, but yeah, it certainly won't be with the US. But they've mentioned it for China, so I've started a bit of maneuvering, sort of trying to think of how to contact Chinese birders and maybe get a little bit of work out of it. And then just today, I've heard that vaccines might be starting to be rolled out in the US by the end of the year, and by sort of March, April, they'll be available for everybody. So this could be the beginning of where things sort of get back on track. So yeah, I'm sort of watching the news every day and checking out what's going on. But yeah, I'm hoping that they start letting tourists in, and then also we can get out and visit other places as well. How about Madagascar? Any changes there?
It's strange, I thought we were on course to pretty much open up the way that South Africa has, Kenya, Tanzania, Botswana. A lot of the more organized African countries in terms of tourism have just opened up pretty much. We've gone exactly the opposite way now. Madagascar is just completely closed down. There are supposedly no flights of any kind. There's no repatriation flights. Their commercial flights had resumed to Nusi Bay. Those are stopped. And I think this is driven by the fact that France is having a major second wave, or whatever it is now, third wave, and that's the tight sort of colonial mother country connection. So, yeah, we're just closed down.
Do you think there's any tourists that have been trapped in Madagascar, or do you think most people got out?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard. I don't think there were actually that many who came. From what I heard, even though the flights that did run were supposedly just for tourists, it was mostly returning residents and that sort of thing.
Right.
But there probably were a few.
I know, at least in Thailand, because it got totally locked down, a lot of people got trapped here, but it's not a bad place to get trapped, really, when you think about it. And they kept, because normally a tourist gets, like a Western tourist will get an automatic 30-day tourist visa on arrival. And they kept offering this this amnesty that people could just stay, like during the COVID thing, because they had trouble getting back, whatever. So people, a lot of tourists just decided to stay, and they stayed 6 months, 7 months, and they keep pushing back this amnesty. And it's still going, I think, now until the end of the year. So I think some people, tourists that came here for, a couple of weeks, have ended up staying just months and months. Anyway, shall we get into the main feature?
Let's do it. We pushed back my mammals a bit because we did a couple episodes about my recent travels, and then we started your mammals, and I was also struggling a little bit to come up with my top 10 list. It was tough. For some reason, it was even tougher to me than birds. But
it's I'm actually looking at this list now, and I think I'm on about 50%. Yeah, but there's a few real big things that if we did a podcast on bucket list mammals, they'd probably be on it. But anyway, should we kick off with your number 10? And I guess this is more to do with the sort of the amazing scenes that you see when you see this animal in big numbers. But this is the wildebeest from Africa. Yeah.
Brindled Gnu, or blue wildebeest.
Brindled Gnu.
Yeah, I think that's the official English name that no one ever uses. Everyone calls it wildebeest.
Brindled Gnu. The gnu is actually, I always wonder why they were called gnus. And then when you listen to their call, they make like a so that's an onomatopoeic.
That should probably be our wild sound. I've got a good recording of a
Ooh. Oh, nice. Yeah, good.
Yeah, so this is definitely one that is about just the overall experience, natural spectacle, rather than like one specific, gnu that walked out of the bushes and approached me and had a certain glint in its eye or something. There used to be big mammal migrations all over Africa. There was this migration of springbok in southern Africa, in the sort of drier Karoo and the western part of South Africa and probably parts of Namibia, that was probably tens of millions of animals. It was just overwhelmingly huge, and it's completely gone. It's been completely wiped out by people.
And I think also there's another species of wildebeest or gnu in southern Africa called the black wildebeest, which is a very cool looking thing, and I think that also migrated in huge numbers up on the Highveld, the highland grasslands.
Right, between maybe the Karoo and the Highveld, depending on the season. Yep. And so that animal basically was extinct in the wild, and it's been brought back with captive breeding, and you can find it here and there, but it's kind of on farms with fences and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So although Africa is in some ways like the wildest continent and has retained more of its megafauna than anywhere else in the world, there's also this sense of loss in Africa of like what used to be here very recently, like 150 or 200 years ago. But one of the big migrations that's left is the famous wildebeest migration in the Serengeti. The herd there fluctuates between about 1 million to 2 million, depending on the year and how good the rains are. And it does this huge clockwise migration through the year in that Serengeti ecosystem, it's mainly in Tanzania, but there's a little bit of it in southern Kenya in the Masai Mara. And for whatever reason, the Mara is just more famous as a wildebeest migration place, but it's actually just a little bit of it that they nick up into Kenya for about 2 or 3 months, and then most of the rest of the year they're in Tanzania, in the Serengeti National Park, and then some associated protected areas. So, yeah, this is something that I saw for the first time pretty early in my stint guiding for tropical birding. It took me a couple years to break into doing Tanzania trips because our boss Keith absolutely loves Tanzania, and it was like he did not want to give up Tanzania. But eventually, there was a year when he was busy in April, and I got to guide a couple Tanzania trips.
It took me even longer. I had both you and Keith both not wanting to give up Tanzania tours, but it finally happened like sort of 8 years after I started.
And Tanzania is just maybe my favorite country in the world. This first Tanzania trip that I guided, I mean, I just fell in love with the place. When you land at Kilimanjaro National Airport, it's way out of any town, and you're basically, so you fly in from Nairobi and you fly right over Mount Kilimanjaro, and you're looking at snow on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and then you drop down into this vast plain, and there's a few scattered villages, but it, like, as soon as you land in this airport, it feels so wild. And then the tour that we do in northern Tanzania, you spend all but 2.5 days of the trip basically inside of protected areas, huge protected areas, when you can see big mammals anywhere, anytime, including predators. So it's just this incredibly wild tour. And a big part of this tour is this wildebeest migration. We go to a part of the Serengeti system where the wildebeest are normally calving in April, and it's just an indescribably magnificent sight when you see, I mean, it's hard to know how many wildebeest you're really seeing at any given moment, and sometimes you can see 10 or 20,000 and it feels vast, but then occasionally I've had a view where you see at least hundreds of thousands, maybe 500,000, and you realize, wow, that's a lot of wildebeest. You get the true scale of this. And so the first time I ever did this tour, we had really good luck. It was a good year. The herd was large. The herd was right in the area where we visited on the tour, and we really had a awesome wildebeest experience. And it was magnificent, and you can hardly believe that big wild animals still exist at this scale on the globe, given how many people there are and how much we've impacted the globe. It's an incredibly life-affirming thing to me to see this. So I've seen it several times subsequently, guiding other Tanzania trips, and it's always just awesome. Not only is there just an incredible number of animals, but they're on the move. They're moving all throughout the year. And so there's always this dynamism to where they're going to be in any given moment. And you see them running across the road. I've seen them a couple times crossing the Mara River in Kenya, the classic thing where there's huge crocodiles stalking them, and they're stampeding into the river. And, I've seen them on both sides, the Kenyan and Tanzanian side. It's just an incredibly exciting natural phenomenon.
That's a very famous scene, where they're all sort of waiting for the first one to cross.
Yeah, I actually find the whole crossing thing a little bit overrated, and I actually enjoy just the spectacle of like millions, hundreds of thousands or whatever of calves on the plains. I actually enjoy that more, but it's all incredible, and there's just this sense of dynamism with this wildebeest herd. I don't know if you've felt that at all when you've seen them. Just like I've done I've only been once where I've seen them in really big numbers, and that was in July, and they were we just sort of caught the tail end. The driver was saying, like last week I was here and there was still a lot of wildebeest around, and we went to the very far west of the park, and then we just caught the end of this thing. But you would see these long streams of animals just walking, like as far as you could see, for miles and miles and miles. And it was pretty impressive. But I haven't been where they've been carving or anything. But so you haven't seen the plains just absolutely heaving with wildebeest that you just can't even begin to count. Yeah, it's all amazing. I mean, the way when they're on the move, they form these lines, incredibly orderly lines, and it's just amazing to see. It's like a caravan or something. Apparently they're extremely responsive to any recent rains, and probably by smell they're able to know.
Yeah.
And so I've had one year we couldn't find the wildebeest herd, and we heard that there'd been some rain in a given area, and we went there and we found the herd just chowing down on all this fresh green grass. And so yeah, it's very much of a kind of hit or miss thing. It's never guaranteed completely. It's just very dynamic, even just on a micro scale. So I guess it always feels fortuitous and exciting when you actually see like the main body of the Serengeti wildebeest herd.
I guess it's one of these things where they're all synchronizing their breeding to sort of just all give birth at the same time, so they'd give them more of a chance to not be predated.
Yep, makes sense. My take on wildebeest is that individually they're not particularly intelligent, but there is this like wisdom of the herd with wildebeest. You know, it's almost like a macroorganism where they're incredibly adaptable as a whole, as a herd or as a species, and that sort of behavior really works well for them. They all give birth within 2 weeks, so no predator can possibly eat all those babies.
Yeah. And I guess it's a little upsetting for some people to, observe all that kind of stuff, little babies being eaten and whatever, but it's all just part of the big picture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all
fittest.
connected. I mean, you like the big cats and you like the the furry, cute animals, and well, they're all connected intimately, and they need each other. I heard a funny story from a friend of mine who I work with in Tanzania. He had some folks on a safari once who were extremely keen to see a kill. Kill. We gotta see a kill. Come on. Let's today's the day. We're gonna see a kill, right?
Yeah.
And so they were at Ngorongoro crater, and they went down for the day, as you do. You do like a day visit. You sleep up on the crater rim, and this guy's very good at his job, and they also had very good luck, and they ended up seeing not one, not two, but 3 separate kills in one day.
Wow.
And a couple of them were pretty grisly, apparently. And he said by the end of the day, there was just complete silence in the safari vehicle. These people were just sitting there, kind of morose. And
can we go home now?
Yeah. Not exactly angry at him, but I think in some sense they realized like what a kill actually is, rather than being some abstract benchmark of achievement of something that you saw and achieved on your safari. It's like, oh yeah, that's actually one animal killing another, sometimes fairly brutally.
It does affect you, I think. I remember just seeing animals being eaten and just feeling that little bit more mortal. You feel that if you just opened the door and stepped out, that would be you. So it's kind of it does make you feel, it's quite life affirming, that you feel alive, but it also reminds you of your own mortality, I think.
I just remember one of those Tanzania trips, the one I did with you last year, when we had a couple of kills in one day. I think one of them was a recently killed zebra that was just being torn apart by like 70 vultures, and a couple hyenas too. But I just remember having not exactly a nightmare, but it was just like that, just the sounds of that animal being torn apart by this 70 vultures, just tendons being severed and all that sort of stuff. It just sunk deep into my consciousness. It was there in my dreams. It was there. Like I can still feel like something down the back of my spine when I think of that, the sound and the feeling of that spectacle. So
I remember the crunching of the bones of the hyenas, because they were quite close to the car and they're just crunching away, and it just gave me this kind of, it wasn't fear exactly, but there's this kind of like anxiety in my chest, and just it really quite affected me a lot. And I'd seen a lot of kills before, but it's
somehow for me, that seeing those vultures just turning a recently killed animal just into a pile of bones was actually the most viscerally striking thing, even more so than actually seeing kills a few times.
But it's an amazing place, Tanzania, Kenya, sort of East African safaris. I think especially Tanzania has just it's a very special place. And I don't know if it was you or Keith that said this, but he said, if you do one trip to Africa, it's got to be one of these big safaris. I think Tanzania would really be a good trip if you just had to do one safari.
I would agree. even go further and I'd just say, if you're somebody who's
anywhere.
never traveled, even if you're not much of a naturalist, like if there's one thing on the world that's really worth seeing, that's it.
Yeah.
Like more so than the Eiffel Tower or the Great Wall of China, or go do an African safari. I don't think there's anything more amazing to see in the world.
Just before we move on to your next mammal, I just want to. I'm going to try and put a link on the podcast description, and it's a little YouTube video of two wildebeest. It's like animated. Have you seen that one? With where there's a log floating in there.
Oh, it's brilliant! Yeah.
And one of them thinks it's a log, and one thinks it's a crocodile, and it's amazing. Well, I'll put the link for that. It's pretty funny.
It's funny, and it's pretty insightful in terms of how wildebeest actually strike me in terms of their intelligence individually.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to your number 9, which is from your adopted country of Madagascar, and that is the Fossa, or Fossa, as you would call it in Malagasy, I guess.
Yeah, Fossa. I sort of struggled with Malagasy mammals. I felt like a couple were well worthy of inclusion, but this is the one I settled on in the end. The lemurs are wonderful, and I have a few favorite lemurs. I think black and white ruffed lemur is probably my favorite lemur. Incredible. It's just beautiful. It sounds like a Harley Davidson, and it's a great animal. Red ruffed lemur, it's like a red panda. The little guys are amazing. I think is incredible animal, but yeah, I guess I like predators, and so Fossa is Madagascar's biggest predator. There's an endemic family of carnivorans in Madagascar. They used to be part of, I guess, the mongoose or the viverrid family, and now they're in their own family. And most of them are pretty small, sort of mongoose or like cat-like. But Fossa is actually a pretty big beast. It doesn't weigh that much, but it's quite heavily built, muscular. It has a big jaw and an incredibly long tail. So its aspect overall is quite a bit like a mountain lion. It's like a mountain lion kind of turned into somewhat mongoose-esque form. It's got shorter legs than a mountain lion. It's not quite as big in the body, but it's quite an impressive beast. Quite a predator. It mainly preys on lemurs that it finds at night. Unfortunately, it's a pretty rare thing in Madagascar now. It seems to have suffered from forest fragmentation, maybe persecution. They don't have any qualms about stealing people's chickens and other domestic animals, which doesn't really endear them with local villagers, understandably. So it's not easy to see. So I'd actually spent quite a few years traveling to Madagascar and then living in Madagascar, and I still hadn't seen a Fossa. So there was one October when I wasn't doing any guiding, and my family and I decided to do a big family trip to the one place where you can reliably see Fossa, which is in the west of Madagascar. It's called Karindi Forest. Amazing place. It's dry deciduous forest, kind of open but quite tall. And for whatever reason that I still don't fully understand, Fossas are just fairly common and also quite accommodated to people here. And so it's almost guaranteed if you visit sort of October, November, during the mating and the more active season.
What draws them into the I know you often see them around the camp, around the edge of the camp. What draws them in there? Do they feed them or what?
I think in reality they scavenge the garbage that's thrown out of the tourist camp. Yeah. I think that's the fundamental reason why they're seen so often around the camp. I don't think that they're usually fed directly, like people chucking them chicken scraps, but there's a big trash area there, and you often see the Fossas around that. So that's maybe unfortunate, but it's great to be able to actually see this animal. And I do think Fossa is legitimately quite common in that forest, more so than other forests. So it's not it's not a zoo. It's just a matter of an animal living alongside people, I guess.
So Kirindi's not a place we go on our birding tours, but I think we do offer it on photography tours. Is that right? Or
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, great place for lemur photography. Plus, you have the Fossa. Plus, it's quite good for bird photography. Nice, open, dry forest.
There's another mammal that's found there around that camp that almost made my top 10 mammals, and it's the giant jumping rat. Is it?
Oh, that's great! Great
That
animal.
huge thing. It's like a little miniature kangaroo. This big fluffy thing, and they sort of throw out grain in the middle of the campground, and every night these giant jumping rats sort of come in and eat the little grains. But it's just such a charismatic rodent.
It's such a weird animal. It's got this big, thick kangaroo-like tail, and it stands over a foot tall. It's a big beast.
Big.
It's such a weird animal. I mean, it's not closely related to anything else, and it's actually only found in this little corner of Madagascar, like a little bit south of Kirindi, but it's very limited range. That giant jumping rat is a great beast too. But our first sighting of Fossa was fortunate because it was just in the forest. It wasn't wandering through the camp as they often do. We were just got there after this epic crushing drive.
You drove up from is it Morondava there or?
Well, we drove from Diego all the way to Kirindi. So that is let me count up the hours. Something like 45 hours drive.
Wow.
Obviously didn't do that in one shot, but it was an epic journey just getting there. But yeah, at Kirindi, so we just got there after this crushing journey, and just did a little forest walk the first day, right around sunset, and just basically came upon this Fossa, just snuffling its way through the forest understory, and it was actually kind of an intimidating sighting. This is a big animal, and so my daughter was pretty young at that point. Mingale was like 4, and she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. So you imagine you're like a little meter tall kid, and you see this thing that's probably weighs more than you do, and it's like all muscle, and it has this big teeth, and
it looks like a sort of bodybuilder. It's got these like bulging muscles from its legs. It's like the weirdest.
It's just ripped.
Yeah, like on steroids.
Yep, I'll put some photos on the gallery for this episode so you can check out the Fossa. It's a really imposing animal. So she was terrified, and of course I sort of felt sorry for her, but it kind of brought home the fact that this is a pretty serious predator. I mean, they actually have attacked people a few times. It's not a great danger to humans, but
didn't Lyle get bitten by one?
Oh, I don't know. I think he
got bitten, but I think he got bitten by one around Kirindi. I don't know if one got too close or whatever, but he said it was the best day of his life. he was so proud. Yeah, but I couldn't imagine they would give a nasty bite.
So yeah, it was just to see this animal after many years of being in Madagascar, to finally see this animal, one of the coolest animals in Madagascar, and just a great animal by any right, was extremely satisfying. And over the course of the next few days, we saw them many more times. They actually do walk right through the camp. It's like this bizarro world, this animal that is mythical and almost imaginary and invisible everywhere else. Suddenly you're waking up and there's one like walking down the path next to your cabin. It's really weird. But I'm glad there is one place like that where you can actually see this thing. Otherwise, it would be frustrating to have...
I've seen it in a different place other than Kirindi.
I know. I'm gripped by that. That was Zombitse, right?
No, it's Mantadia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they were mating, right?
I think that's the way that you normally see them. If anybody sees them in the whole year, I think for like 2 days of the year, they had this big mating, very vocal mating ritual, and they're just up in the trees and they're just howling during the day. and luckily we were the day that we were there. It was a sort of it was in November sometime, I think, and the day that we were there, the guide said, these were here yesterday. He was with another group, and they went back to the same spot, and we saw these things looking down at us from the top of the trees, just in mid coitus, and both looking absolutely terrifying. These kind of like really
bug-eyed, I've seen pictures, and it's like their minds are really on the task.
Yeah. And I was like, woo. They still seem to find each other attractive.
Yep. Just so people know that, yeah, that's, as you said, that's about the only time anybody ever sees a Fossa. Otherwise, I mean, it's just, no one ever sees this thing on a night walk or just, but
Nope.
like, it must be incredibly shy. I think it's one of these things that's probably been so persecuted by people that they're just unbelievably shy. They slip down into villages and kill chickens, but it just, you don't see them except when they're mating. And they have they have a very, very high fidelity to given branches of given trees, and they go mate in the same place every single year in the same window, which is, it's about 3 weeks in November, and then they're there for a few days getting the job done, and then they disappear again. It's very weird. On the recent, I spent a few days up in Amber Mountain that we talked about on the podcast, and I was with my friend Angelique, and he showed me a place where they mate every year in Amber Mountain, and so I told him, Angelique, call me if anybody finds it there this year. Call me, and I'll be there that day because I want to see this. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Whew. Anyway, it's another great mammal. I think we'll probably leave it at 2 mammals for this time.
Yep, sounds good.
We've got another 8 to go. But I'm looking at the list, and there's some pretty special ones there. So we're looking forward to a lot more stories to hear.
Yeah, likewise. Lots of good stuff left in your the top half of your top 10, including one that was originally on my list. We'll talk about that more later. But
we've had to sort of do a few trades and
some backroom dealings. I guess we'll wrap up the episode with the natural sound of this week, which is the Brindled Gnu, or blue wildebeest. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, thanks for listening, folks, and catch you next week.
See you next week.
Ah.